President Biden won Michigan's Democratic primary on Tuesday as expected, but he faced the biggest electoral protest of his campaign so far. Now, keep in mind, he's the sitting president. He earned 81% of the vote. Notably, 100,000 people, 13% of Democratic primary voters, went out and cast ballots for uncommitted rather than voting for Biden. The uncommitted protest vote was largely in reaction to the Biden administration's handling of the war in Gaza. In Dearborn, Michigan, which is majority Arab American, 3 in 4 voters selected uncommitted, 75%. It's worth noting that a few things. First, protest votes in primaries have a long historical precedent, and they don't always translate to general election results. When Barack Obama ran for re-election, 10% of Michigan Democrats chose uncommitted in the primary, but Obama still comfortably won the state in the general election. However, Michigan is one of those states that will decide the election. And Joe Biden only beat Trump by 150,000 votes in the state in 2020. With a polarized electorate, either party has to guarantee maximum turnout among their bases before they even think about winning the White House. So the president has got some work to do. Joining me now, Peter Beinart. He's the editor-at-large of Jewish Currents, an MSNBC political analyst and the author of the book, The Crisis of Zionism. And Dean Obeidallah. He's the host of the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM and a daily columnist right here at MSNBC. Guys, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Dean, what were you hearing? You were talking to me in the break. You're saying you were hearing from people about this Michigan turnout vote. There were people, including Rashida Tlaib, who encouraged people to vote uncommitted. That was not an encouragement to vote against Joe Biden and in favor of Donald Trump in the election, but it was an encouragement to say, go out there and make your point known.
Exactly. And I think some of my fellow Democrats are missing the issue. The vote there, the leaders of the movement that said, listen to Michigan, said, this is not an anti-Biden movement. In fact, these people are the ones who helped elect Joe Biden. They knocked on doors, they raised money, they went out and voted for him. They're trying to change his policy towards Gaza. They're sending a message. Some of the leaders said, we're doing Biden a favor. We're telling you what you need to do. Change your path in Gaza. Be concerned with Palestinian humanity. Stop standing up and supporting Netanyahu left and right. So it really was a message now for the future so that he could ultimately win Michigan. That's what the organizers are saying. I think it's a great move. I know my fellow Democrats, they're like, we're all concerned about Trump.
Right.
No one is more anti-Trump than the Arab and Muslim community. I can assure you of that. But this is a message now about something that's very personal. It's not political. It's not a purity test. People have friends and family they've lost in Gaza, and the death toll continues to grow from yesterday to today to tomorrow. It doesn't end.
So, Peter, if it were that well politically calculated, that would be one thing. But you have been hearing from people who are not saying, I'm going to just send a message to the Biden administration now. They're saying, I'm not going to vote for Biden in the coming election. And it's not just Arabs and Muslims. Right. It's progressives. It's young people. It's some black people. It's some Jewish people. So how do you see this going forward? Because none of those groups, while all of their concerns are valid, will think that the world is better under Donald Trump.
Right. And I would encourage those people to vote for Joe Biden in the general election, as I will do. But there's a limit to how far you can get by just hectoring people, right? The fact is that America makes it hard to vote. Right? We don't have, most countries have voting days on election day, or at least a weekend. Oftentimes in America, you have to stand for hours online, right? So you have to motivate people to vote, and not just vote. An effective campaign has people not going door to door, phone banking, enthusiasm. Joe Biden now cannot go on a college campus and do a rally because people are going to protest about Gaza. That's his base. He can't go to a black church. This is a big problem. So yes, you can say to folks, listen, at the end of the day, you need to vote for Joe Biden, but Biden has to do his part. Their campaign has to listen to their base voters. I think they have played the politics of this as if it's a decade or 2 decades ago. Things have changed inside the Democratic Party, and he has to listen to that change.
Dean, when you see, can one be enthusiastic about their support in November in defense of democracy against our descent into autocracy, despite the fact that you may never be able to bring yourself to really like Joe Biden because of his policies? Can you do those things? Can you knock on doors? Can you make phone calls? Can you raise money for a guy you may not be that into because the other option is really bad?
Look, Donald Trump is an existential threat to the Palestinian people. I say that as a Palestinian American. As we get closer to November, that'll be the argument to certain people in the swing states. Look, I know you didn't like what Biden did in Gaza. Who knows where we'll be in terms of policy? It's not rhetoric now. It's policy changes. In 8 months, things may have changed dramatically. It won't bring back any of the 30,000 who were killed, and 2/3 of them are women and children. But maybe then you can motivate people. Right now, it's about ceasefire. President Biden, he needs to have the fierce urgency of now that he wants a ceasefire. Stop vetoing UN resolutions that call for a ceasefire like we did last week. The 15 countries, the UN Security Council, we're the only one to vote no. We are alone now. We have isolated ourselves from our allies on this issue. This is wrong. And, Senator Van Hollen 2 weeks ago on the floor said there are textbook war crimes going on at the hands of the Netanyahu administration. We should not be backing this at all. We should stop. Permanent ceasefire, the #1 demand of the movement right now. Stopping of aid to Netanyahu, at least without conditions, to military aid. And I think accountability for Netanyahu and Hamas. Both committed war crimes. Both should be tried at The Hague and prosecuted and put in jail.
Peter, Joe Biden, I think, has never really liked Benjamin Netanyahu. He made a bet at the beginning of this war that he would get some currency with him. He'd be able to have some, gas in the tank to influence him. And that has not turned out to be true. In fact, Netanyahu is actively running an election campaign, even though there's no election in Israel, saying that he's the only one who can stand up to Joe Biden.
Right.
What does Joe Biden have to do now?
Joe Biden has to use the leverage that America has. I mean, the policy has been bizarre. It's like, please, please, we'd like you to not prosecute this war. We'd like you to stop fighting. As if the United States has no leverage, right? These are our weapons. And in fact, we're probably providing the weapons in violation of U.S. law, because U.S. law says you cannot provide weapons to countries that are committing grave human rights abuses or countries that are impeding the delivery of U.S. humanitarian assistance. Both of these things are almost certainly happening right now. So he needs to make Netanyahu make some hard decisions. Israel wants to prosecute this war, then it has to face the consequences that it's not going to get resupply from the U.S., and it will face consequences in international legal institutions, as Hamas should as well. Biden has to make Netanyahu and make the Israeli people make that choice. Netanyahu's whole political career has been based on telling Israelis they can have their cake and eat it too. They can maintain permanent oppression of Palestinians, and it will never undermine their relationship with their big brother, the United States. Biden needs to show that's not true anymore. CENTCOM,
the U.S. defense industry, the U.S. defense forces have released images of these airdrops that started yesterday morning. Balloons and pallets landing 66,000 meals or something like this. Wild story that we are airdropping food into a place that doesn't have food because of an army that is doing stuff paid for us and supplied by us. There is zero reason America would need to airdrop food into Gaza. There are ways that we can actually influence the situation so that food gets directly to Gazans.
Absolutely. And Netanyahu is preventing the United States of America from helping the people of Gaza, the Palestinian Christians and Muslims, 2 million, 80% displaced. It is heartbreaking. Now, I like that we're dropping supplies. It sends a strong message, as opposed to Netanyahu administration dropping American-supplied bombs. We provide them with 2,000-pound bombs. According to CNN's satellite imagery, they dropped over 500 2,000-pound bombs in one of the most densely populated areas. 2,000-pound bomb kills people 1,000 feet away. So even in good faith, you want to kill Hamas, you say they're here. It kills everyone in the apartment building across and to the left and to the right. Netanyahu did that because the Palestinian people, the Christians and Muslims who live there, are not human beings in his eyes. That's why you do that. And that's why he doesn't let us give aid to the people, because they don't care. Some of them want us to get rid of the Palestinians. You have members of the administration, Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, talking about voluntary transfer. That's ethnic cleansing, and they want to build settlements there. So I'm glad. I think it's an important point that President Biden did more with the aid. We should do a lot more. And he should call out Netanyahu saying, we're doing this because he, our ally, won't let us help the people of Gaza.
Peter, Biden keeps talking about the fact that we're moments away from a ceasefire deal, and every day he gets asked, and every day he sort of pushes it back. Makes me feel like he's got a State of the Union next Thursday. There are going to be hostage families there. I think he wants to be able to say something to pivot this conversation. I don't know what the something looks like, because while there are still hostages, while the world understands that Hamas is perpetrated one of the worst horrors that Israel's ever seen on October 7th, and we don't know what justice for them looks like.
Right.
What does he do? Because for the moment, lots and lots of innocent Palestinians are facing justice for something they didn't do.
Right. I mean, getting the hostages back is desperately important, right? Those people are suffering unimaginable horrors, right? And it was a terrible war crime for Hamas to take those people, right? But what I think sometimes is missed in the discourse is the fight for a ceasefire and the fight for those release of hostages is the same fight. Israel has not getting hostages back through war, except for a couple of them, right? The only thing that gives us a chance of getting as many of those hostages back alive is a ceasefire and diplomacy. But the truth is that the Israeli government is divided on this. There's some in the Israeli government that would like to prioritize the hostages, but there are many others in the Israeli government that don't want to prioritize the hostages, that are actually, frankly, hostile to these hostage families, because for them, the only thing that matters is prosecuting this war. Biden has to make the Israeli government make that choice in favor of saving the hostages through a ceasefire.
Guys, thank you. Much more to talk about, but we'll come back and do it again. Dean
Thanks, Alan.
and Peter, we appreciate that. Peter Beinart is the editor-at-large of Jewish Currents and MSNBC political analyst and the author of the important book, The Crisis of Zionism. Dean Obeidallah is the host of The Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM and an MSNBC daily columnist.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Willie.
Sir, come on, what is it now, please? Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah, I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I'll assume that we're good on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
The Megatron.
This was just a diversion. Security, make bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark. General, General! We need to evac immediately. Evac everything. Hold on. National security advisory. Stand down. Check it out. This group that failed their mission is outrageous. The amateurs on a suicide mission.